Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So thank you for your patience. Today we're going to be speaking about the Nadiya Sutta, and I have some related suttas that sprung to mind as I was contemplating this sutta, and I'll just as we go, you'll see. So I'm going to screen share the sutta. So you see it? Yes, okay. So this is with Nandiya, and he's one of the Shakyans, and he's also a relative of the Lord Buddha. And somewhere I saw that he was a merchant. But in any case, he's whatever his business is, he wanders from place to place. And it appears that during the rainy season, even the lay people, like the monks, determine a residence, but it may not be as strict as the monks. They have a specific time period. But he decided, because the Buddha, at one time, the Buddha was staying in the land of the Sakyans near Kapilavatthu in the Banyan Tree Monastery. Now, this is Bhante Sujato's translation. And you can see AN 1113 is the sutta. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So he has a Pali here, which is really lovely. So I'm just going to look at Bhante Sujato's today because there's a lot that I want to talk about. And going back and forth, this is going to maybe not be helpful. So Nadiya had heard that the Buddha was staying near Kapilavatthu and thought, why don't I also commence the rains residence at Sawati? So this is the Vasa. There I can focus on my work and from time to time get to see the Buddha. So he already has a certain amount of faith in the Buddha that he thinks that's a great idea. Can you imagine? I want to stay in the same village as the Buddha, and I can go and pay respects to him and visit him and ask questions. So the Buddha commenced the rains residence in Sawati, and so did Nadiya. There he focused on his work and from time to time got to see the Buddha. At that time, several mendicants were making a robe for the Buddha, thinking that when the robe was finished and the 3 months of rains of residence had passed, the Buddha would set out wandering. So this is, they're making the robe ahead of time. And you may have remember Mahanama. Mahanama lived in Sawati. And he heard about the robe making and had the sense of urgency. Oh, I better go see him, the Lord Buddha, before he leaves. And Nadia has the same idea. So the starting is very similar. Nadia, okay, so I did read that. So he went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, Sir, I have heard that several mendicants are making a robe for the Buddha, thinking that when the robe was finished and the 3 months of rains residence had passed, the Buddha would set out wandering. Now you might recognize, you saw last week's sutta. Now we spend our life in various ways. Which of these should we practice? So this was how should we dwell? I think that's how Bhante Bodhi translated it. So this is a dwelling, could be a dwelling of how we conduct ourselves in our lives. How should I live? How should I live my life? Or how should I dwell? What kind of a dwelling should I have in my meditation? There's a number of ways to read this vihara, viharena, dwelling, residence, mode of way living, way to spend your life, mode of existence, and then it's also meditation, attainment, state of mind. So all those, it could be, he's asking all those questions. So the Buddha is going to cover this again. It's very similar to the last one. So the Buddha says, it's appropriate that gentlemen such as you come to me and ask. We spend our life in various ways. Which of these should we practice? Now I'm going to ask the people in the live audience, what do you see is different here? If you can recall, the faithful succeed, not the faithless. The ethical succeed, not the unethical. The energetic succeed, not the lazy. The mindful succeed, not the unmindful. Those with immersion succeed, not those without immersion. The wise succeed, not the witless. So what's different here? Yes, Adrian?
So we've got ethical and unethical is added in this one, I think, right?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
we have five. So I think also the Buddha said that you should establish yourselves. Yeah, when grounded or established on these six things, go on to establish mindfulness on five further things internally. So Mahanama didn't have this recommendation to establish himself in ethics. So it may be that uh, our friend Nalia needed a little nudge here. And this shows how the Buddha addresses each individual. And for ourselves, we have to consider, what is it that I need to work on? I don't have a Buddha necessarily to tell me. Maybe my friends, this is where it'll come to this, but let's see if I can get to, I'm going to have to get out of this for a second. I'm going to stop the screen share because I have something I want to show you, because I want to focus a little bit on ethics. So there's a five faculties or five powers plus ethics. So it's assumed, I think, when the Buddha is speaking to people about the five spiritual or controlling faculties, or the bases, five bases of power, five powers, I think it's bases of power or something else. He's assuming these people are established in ethics, or he knows that. So now there's this encouragement. So I'm going to stop this screen share because I have to find, oh, here it is. It was covered. All right, I wasn't able to. Okay, so now I'm going to share the screen with, see, this should be it. There, this document. So here we have what was just covered. The faithful succeed, not the faithless. That's sada. And the ethical succeed, not the unethical. And this is sila, and sila wa would be one who's possessing sila. That might be a name for somebody, or silawati would be a feminine form. The energetic succeed, not the lazy. So this is arada wirya. This is the wirya would be the faculty. And then the upatita sati, the mindful succeed, not the unmindful. So this is one that's attending mindfully. This is literally what that was. And samahito, that's a samadhi, one with the calm, collected, composed. And then the panyawa, this is another name. This panyawati is the feminine form. Not the witless, not the unwise. This is Bhante Sujatos. So when you're grounded in these 6 things, go on to establish mindfulness on 5 further things internally. So here we have the 5 spiritual faculties, as I showed last week. Pretty much the same. The faculties of faith, energy, mindfulness, and mindfulness, immersion, and wisdom. And then but here we're jumping to another sutta. So as I was saying, the Buddha is assuming that people are established in ethics before he teaches them. This is my take on it. Before he teaches them the 5 spiritual faculties. We need to have that, And so the Kālāmas Sutta was well known for, like, it's supposed to be like kind of a carte blanche for free thinking or something like that. But this is actually not the case. This is like a misinterpretation of what was said. So this is an extract. I just jumped to the salient issue about ethics. So this is what he goes through this whole rhetorical questioning with the Kālāmas for them to consider for themselves. And so he says, what do you think, Kālāmas? Does contentment come up in a person for their welfare or harm? So he was asking about discontent or greed. This is aloba, which is down here, aloba. And loba is greed, and aloba, Bhante Sujato, is translated as contentment. Does it come up in a person for their welfare or harm? Oh, I put it here too. And this for their welfare, sir. This is an individual who is content, not overcome by greed, doesn't kill living creatures, steal, commit adultery, lie, encourage others to do the same. Is that for their lasting welfare and happiness? Yes, sir, Bhante. Ewan Bhante. So he goes, first he starts with, is it for your welfare or happiness to be overcome by greed, hate, and delusion? And then one who's overcome by greed, hate, and delusion will do all these things. They'll kill, they'll steal, they'll commit adultery. And then one is missing here. What does this look like to you? This what he's saying here. Not killing, not stealing, not committing adultery. Okay. So this is 4 of the 5 precepts. So she's encouraging them to really consider giving up greed, hate, and delusion, and keeping the precepts. So they're seeing for themselves. They know for themselves that this is wrong. They know for themselves this is harmful. So he says, and this is the famous line that everybody misinterprets. Don't go by lineage, testament, canonical authority. Don't rely on logic. Don't rely on inference. Don't go by reason, train of thought. Don't go by acceptance of a view after deliberation. Don't go by acceptance of the competence of a teacher. This is what this is referring to. And don't think the ascetic is our respected teacher. Don't think this is my guru. But this is directly after this. But when you know for yourselves, these things are unskillful, blameworthy, criticized by sensible people, and when you undertake them, they lead to harm and suffering, then you should give them up. So things that cause harm, you said this is what he's saying to think for yourself about. Is this helpful? Is this harmful? Would people I respect criticize me if I did that? So this is our motivation for ethics. But he went through the whole rhetorical questioning with the unwholesome, the greed, hate, and delusion, and the behavior that comes from that. And then when he went through the non-greed or the contentment, the non-hate, which would be metta or loving kindness, and the non-delusion, which would be wisdom. So when you know these things are skillful, blameless, praised by sensible people, and when you undertake them, they lead to welfare and happiness, then you should acquire them and keep them. That's what I said. And that's why I said it. And that's why he said the above about don't just go by tradition, don't just go by lineage, don't just go by, and what other people say, or somebody's very charismatic. So he's saying, don't just go by gullibility. So this is another sutta related to ethics. I was trying to find where the 5 precepts, so usually you see 4 of the 5 when he's speaking to lay people. But this is a rare sutta that I found. A lay follower with 5 qualities is self-assured. What 5? They don't kill living creatures, steal, commit sexual misconduct, lie, or use alcoholic drinks that cause negligence. A lay follower with these 5 qualities is self-assured. So, and then here we have, see, this is very much pretty close to the Panatipata, and this is Pari Virato and Adina Dana. So we have that here, Dina Dana, Kame Sumichachara. So these are all Siramirayam Majapamadhatana is there. It's a mouthful. Amusawada is there too. So these are the 5 precepts, and these are formally given frequently at temples, and I recommend that this is a really wonderful way to reinforce the importance of them, is to take them. It's good to understand them in your own mother tongue, whatever your mother tongue is. And most people, Pali is not their mother tongue, although Sinhala is very close if you're Sri Lankan. Um, so, so this is what the Buddha was saying to Nadiya. You should establish yourself in these 5 precepts, pretty much, as for a layperson, and 8 precepts when there's the Aposita day is also encouraged. Let's see. We can get to this later, but this is a quality of the stream enterer is one who keeps their ethical conduct. This is one of the qualities. They would never break these precepts intentionally. If they slip, like they realize they're said something that wasn't quite true, it's more on the realm of that than deliberately, trying to conceal something. They would right away try to make amends if they this is my understanding of it. If they make a mistake right away, or maybe they do out of habit, like I pick something up. But in the past, I was very careless about pens and things, and just, like people in the office, they'll just take things home and it's not really appropriate. So you're in a person may be in a kind of a habit like that, and it's like a petty thieving or something, and they go, oh, and right away they try to correct if they did something like that. So they wouldn't intentionally do anything that would cause harm to oneself or another. So now we're going to go back to the sutta, main sutta. So the Buddha is saying that first that he should just ground himself or establish himself in these 5 things, and then, or 6 things rather, and then further these 5 further things. And this is the same pretty much. You'll notice something different here. Firstly, you should recollect the realized one. That blessed one is perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. So if you memorize the Pali, it's really good to know, have a good, also English translation that you feel comfortable with. I recommend, having the Pali memorized because it's universal in temples. So if you go, or groups of people, it doesn't necessarily a temple, but groups of people that you have a universal chanting. Although other groups with it, also have their English translation. So in this way, you should establish mindfulness internally based on the realized one. This is a little bit different than Mahanama, because he was saying yes, this is also, but it's a reflection. So furthermore, you should recollect the teaching. The teaching is well explained by the Buddha, apparent in this present life, immediately effective, inviting inspection, relevant, so that sensible people can know for themselves. So Sanditiko is directly visible, evident, real, perceivable. So I've heard the translation apparent here and now, and akaliko is also translated as timeless. He says apparent, immediately effective, but akaliko is timeless, I think there's immediateness to it, to a calico, immediate, giving immediate fruit. And then timeless is what I've mostly heard for a calico. Limited, but not limited to a particular time. Present at hand. So the way I've heard of calico is that there's timeless, is that it any period of time it's relevant. And then ehipasiko is to open to inspection, inviting one to come and see. Opanaiko, applicable, relevant, practical, useful, onward leading. Pachatam weti tabo winyu hiti. So this is to be experienced individually by the wiser, so that sensible people can know for themselves. So I think if you contemplate this aspect of the Dhamma, it's a Dhamma within the Dhamma. I think, because I think, yeah, a lot of it is apparent in our lives. We can see it in our daily lives, the Dhamma. We can see impermanence. We can see dukkha. We can understand the causes of dukkha. So, since we don't have a Buddha, a living Buddha that I know of present in our lives, sometimes it helps to reflect on the Dhamma, but the fact that the Buddha has presented these teachings and the teachings of carrying, he's all he did to, as a human being, he was a human being, and all he did to realize the truth is really inspiring. So now we see something different than Mahanama. So in the qualities of stream enter, they have the ethics that are unspottled. It says that they don't break their sila, and they have unshakable faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So we have the Buddha, Dhamma, and then now the Buddha is saying, furthermore, you should recollect your good friends. So this is the Kalyana Mita. Excellent friends with good spiritual companions. So he's recommending that he hang out with the good guys, not with the bad guys. I think maybe this is another nudge. Maybe he's not hanging out with ethical people. So he should think of the good friends. Probably has a mixture of friends, like most of us do. So who do we want to emulate? Who do we want to be influenced by? Even if, like, at work and stuff like that, the people there are not ethical, be the ethical one. It takes a little more effort if you're having to be in company that's not so ethical. So then when you say, I am so fortunate to have good friends who advise and instruct me out of kindness and sympathy. So maybe this is also including the monastic sangha. Or maybe you could say that the lay community at Sawati, there's stream enterers there. So maybe he should hang out with his, I think both of them are cousins, so I'm not sure Mahanama's relationship to Nadiya, but maybe they're even brothers or something, I don't know. So I'm so fortunate to have good friends who advise and instruct me out of kindness and sympathy. In this way, you should establish mindfulness internally based on good friends. So these days we have the internet, so sometimes this is what we have and to help us, to encourage us. But even those who are non-Buddhist, to spend time with people that, if you have a choice, to spend time with people that have good sila as much as you can. They will act kindly, honest. So furthermore, you should recollect your own generosity. I'm so fortunate, so very fortunate among people who's with hearts full of the stain of stinginess. I live at home, rid of stinginess, freely generous, open-handed, loving to let go, committed to charity, loving to give and share. So whatever, however much we have, even just to be able to listen to somebody who's unhappy and just give them your time, it helps somebody who's, you know, I heard a story. This man said that uh, he was came to a gathering, a Buddhist gathering, and he said that he lived in an apartment building, and he walked out one time and he saw this old man in the apartment building had fallen, and he had, I think he was something about carrying groceries and fallen, and so he's the man that was talking said, help the man gather up his goods and helped him up the stairs, and then he started checking on him, and then they started becoming friends, and he said it felt so good to be able to help somebody out. This and then there's somebody who was a stranger, and then they started to care about one another. So generosity doesn't necessarily have to mean, thousands of dollars to your charity or something like that, or, elaborate meal for the monastics or something like that. It's giving from ourselves, from our hearts, what we can give. And there's another story of in the time of the Buddha where this couple, they had so little, and cloth at that time was so expensive, so they had to share a piece of cloth, the shawl, and so the woman couldn't go out because they didn't have enough cloth for both of them to go out at once, so they had to share this. And so this man was so inspired by the Buddha. He went to the Buddha, and he was just so inspired. He wanted to give this cloth to the Buddha. And so he did. And then the king saw him do this. And the king was so impressed that he helped out this family. But what we can give, I don't recommend you give the shirt off your back or something like that. But what we can give, even that, like if a poor person just gives a spoon of rice into the alms bowl, and that's a sacrifice for them, then that's much more meritorious than somebody who's wealthy and it doesn't matter to them so much materially, if they give a lot because they have so much. So this is a true generosity, really giving of yourself. And it helps with letting go on a lot of different levels if we start to be able to give. In this way, you should establish mindfulness internally based on your own generosity. And then there's the recollection of the deities. Further, you should recollect the deities. There are deities who surpass the company of the deities that consume solid food. I'm not really sure what this, because as far as I'm concerned, they do. There's earth devas that are more connected with the material realm. There's like but I'm not sure what he's referring to here. I haven't researched this. Surpassing them are reborn in a certain host of mind-made deities. They don't see in themselves anything more to do or anything that needs improvement. An irreversibly freed mendicant doesn't see in themselves anything more to do or anything that needs improvement. So as each stage of awakening is irreversible, if you're sotapanna, if you've entered the stream, you won't have more than 7 rebirths, and you won't fall to lower realms, and you're bound for nibbana. Anything more to do would be arahant, though. In the same way, Nadiya, there are deities who, surpassing the company of the deities that consume solid food, are reborn in a certain host of mind-made deities. They don't see in themselves anything more to do or anything that needs improvement. In this way, you should establish mindfulness internally based on deities. A noble disciple who has these 11 qualities gives up bad, unskillful qualities and doesn't cling to them. So this one about the deities, I'm not quite sure what he is implying here, other than to be working towards a state where you don't need anything more to improve. And I think that irreversibly freed mendicant was more I could relate to aspiring towards. A noble disciple who has these 11 qualities gives up bad, unskillful qualities and doesn't cling to them. It's like when a pot full of water is tipped over, so the water drains out and doesn't go back in. Suppose there was an uncontrolled fire. It advances, burning up dry woodlands, and doesn't go back over what is burned. In the same way, a noble who has these 11 qualities gives up bad, unskillful qualities and doesn't cling to them. So that's the end of the sutta. And so this irreversibility, I think this is what he was talking about. The water's drained out and the woodlands, once the fire is burned through, it doesn't return. So this is destroying our unskillful qualities. Once we've gotten to a certain point, we're not going to go back to those unskillful qualities. Let me see if I can get this. Try to switch. There we go. So now we're going to talk about stream entry, because it seems to me from this sutta that the Buddha is encouraging qualities in Nadiya so that he may enter the stream. He sees the potential of Nadiya. And I couldn't see anywhere, I couldn't find, I don't have Ayanika at my side to help me with this, but I couldn't find whether Nadiya had entered the stream, but he is in the Sotapanna Samyutta, which is SN 55. And the Buddha is giving him, this is an extract. Nadiya appears next, but here's, so SN 55 is the Samyutta of the Sotapanna Samyutta. So there's a whole section on stream entry in the Samyutta Nikaya. And then this is Sutta number 16, and the Buddha is instructing the mendicants. Those mendicants, those who you have sympathy for, and those worth listening to, friends and colleagues, relatives and family, should be encouraged, supported, and established in the 4 factors of stream entry. What for? Experiential confidence in the Buddha, the teaching, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and the ethical conduct loved by the noble ones, leading to immersion. So those you have sympathy for, I think this is that those that you see potential in, the mendicants would speak to, not to somebody who who's not interested. You don't want to it's like we don't proselytize. I don't walk around waving my finger. You should be keeping 5 precepts. So we shouldn't do that either, but we should be a very good example. And this is a 4 qualities that are listed. There's more, but this fits in with the sutta. If you take the Sangha being the good friend, the Kalyana Mitta, as well as the other virtuous people and Sawati that the Buddha was encouraging Nadiya to hang out with, rather than maybe some kind of scallywag friends. So that's the 4 qualities. Sada, the confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and ethical conduct, loved by the noble ones. That's keeping our sila well. So I think we have time to, this is a extract again, and this is Nadiya again, and he's in the Samyutta Nikaya. And see here, he's repeatedly coming to the Buddha. So you see that the Buddha has told him 11 things to think about. So the Nadiya has been coming to him for a while. So it's not like he's just kind of, this stuff is laid out on him and he's never had any exposure to it before. So, and I can imagine that over the time of the Vasa, he was coming repeatedly to speak to the Buddha, so he could ask questions about these qualities that the Buddha has mentioned. So here is another conversation, an extract, and I'm just kind of cutting to the chase. Maybe it's not the right expression, but just trying to get to the crux of it. And how does a noble disciple live diligently? Firstly, a noble disciple has experiential confidence in the Buddha. This is the Buddha speaking to Nadiya. But they're not content with that confidence and make an effort, further effort for solitude by day and retreat by night. When they live diligently, joy springs up. Being joyful, rapture springs up. With a mind full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, they feel bliss. When blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. When the mind is immersed in samadhi, principles become clear. Here's where the apanya comes in. Because principles have become clear, they're reckoned to live diligently. So the principles is Dhamma, the Dhammas, kind of a lowercase d Dhammas, but it's also understanding things as they are, understanding things in accordance to reality. So furthermore, a noble disciple has experiential confidence in the teaching, the Sangha, and they have ethical conduct loved by the noble ones. So these are all qualities of a stream enterer. leading to immersion. But they're not content with that ethical conduct loved by the noble ones. That means they don't just say live on their laurels and they say, oh, I have faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and I keep my sila well, and that's all I need to do. I'm done. It's not. He says, no, don't delude yourself that that's enough. They're not content with that ethical conduct. That's not saying that that's not their conduct isn't good enough, but they're not content just to stop there. Loved by the noble ones, and make a further effort for solitude by day and retreat by night. When they live diligently, joy springs up. Being joyful, rapture springs up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. That's passaddhi. When the body is tranquil, they feel bliss. That's piti. When blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. When the mind is immersed in samadhi, the Dhammas become clear. Because the Dhammas become clear, they're reckoned to live diligently. So he's establishing himself, the Nandiya, and the path to deeper insights. So you, assuming he's entered the stream, the Buddha is encouraging Nadiya further here. So these 4 factors of stream entry, I think they're both in Mahanama and Nadiya Suttas. Because if I'm just going to count the Kalyana Mittas as the Sangha. But I think in this case, Nadiya needed a little encouragement to hang out with a better company. Anyway, so this is a kind of a guideline to help us enter the stream. And this is both those teachings of Mahanama, AN 11 and AN 11 and 12, AN 11.11 and AN 11.11, point 12 and AN 11.13 is Nadiya, but the previous 2 were Mahanama. I'm sorry if that's confusing. But anyways, AN, I could type it in. Mahanama is that's right. AN 11.11 and 11.12. So these are two laymen. And so the potential for us, all of us, to enter the stream and to go further is there for us. And the teachings are here. It's a gradual path. It looks like a lot. But they all support one another. You can see those factors all support one another. So I'm going to stop the screen share. And does anyone have any questions for what was just discussed? Yes, John?
Can you hear me, Aya?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. Well, I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going well at the Vihara for you.
Good, yeah, that's good.
Okay, so I do have a question. You talked about generosity. And I do try to be generous, but there's a challenge that I've been thinking about. So as I see it in society today, there are a lot of people who are having a hard time making a living. And in some cases, they have to move back in with someone else because things are expensive, job security is very low in a lot of cases. So how to wisely deal with a situation where the support that one would provide is demanded or requested perhaps inappropriately by a certain situation. In other words, it doesn't seem to be coming from inside, but it might be forced by circumstances as a request, something like that. How should that be handled? Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm a little bit unclear, but so you're concerned about generosity from yourself, but somebody's demanding from you? So it doesn't feel like generosity, or I'm not like a little bit, I'm not sure what direction it's going.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that the typical thing in our society is that when people get to a certain age, they become financially independent after a certain amount of formal education.
Right.
And the expectation is that we can provide for ourselves, make our own living, make money, and that's considered responsible. But when that collapses for various reasons, because of inflation or job insecurity, or people aren't being helpful, or things just go sideways, then an individual who is supposed to be independent now goes back to being in a dependent situation. And so there can be resentment or judgment about that phenomenon that's happening in the society. It's kind of falling over backwards. And when I look at the community I live in, there seems to be quite a lot of that. Even for older people, there could be a lot of that. So I'm just wondering what's a wise way of looking at something that's more forced?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand the generosity aspect of it, that feels ungenerous, or the grasping, or I'm sorry if I'm a little slow on trying to understand.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you ever encountered an experience in your life where someone asked you for something, like when you were working, you said you were working at one point. If someone were to ask you for something and maybe there was some resistance inside for whatever reason, because there's maybe a social expectation they should provide for themselves, or some other, you don't know them perhaps, and there's some lack of confidence there, or some other problem. But I can say what I'm addressing is a very practical issue that's coming up a lot. It's not just in this society, it's all over the world apparently, where these kind of issues are arising.
Yeah, so I know there's a whole phenomena with people crowding in together. I lived that way too. I couldn't rent by myself and things like that. And then tensions arise, I think, if there's an expectation, or there are families where the adult children are living in the home and the parents maybe not happy about it or something, but what can they do? So I think it just a heart of compassion of whatever side of it you're on, if the people are angry at you, or they have all these expectations of you, and then you do the best you can. I mean, like, you part of generosity in that case would be to be sympathetic and understanding of that they lack a certain amount of wisdom to just to be at ease. It's just like to be in the the sutta is talking about in a society where like there's stinginess, a lot of stinginess, how can I be generous? What can I do to be generous? So I have a generous heart. And maybe it's just having loving kindness to people that are hostile towards us. Maybe it's being forgiving, being caring. I mean, an adult child in the home could probably do quite a bit to help out. And just to think, oh, I notice the trash is filling up. I'm very happily take it out. Or if they're even scolding me, saying I should do it when I had the intention to do it. Oh, I want an opportunity to do this for my family, even if they don't understand. So it could be like in the Kālāmas Sutta, they were talking about, the Buddha was talking about walking evenly over the uneven, where the people are troubled and to be untroubled, and being generous where there's no generosity. So there's generosity of heart, there's generosity of action, there's forgiveness, giving, that's a giving, to forgive. So yeah, so just caring for our own hearts the best we can, I think, is this. Then giving from that, giving from our hearts, whatever it is, not necessarily materially, as I said. So I hope that's helpful. So, Adrian, did you have anything, a question or anything?
Um, I was thinking about well, first of all, thank you
I
for
forgot to, I
going
didn't
through
take us
that.
offline, so we're
That's
still
fine.
recording. Okay.
I just wanted to ask about, well, or I was thinking about the deities, the mind-made deities. I kind of did a little Google search,
Oh,
and there's
great.
a um sutta. It's in the Numbered Discourses, AN 5166. It's called Cessation, and it
And
mentions that if
166.
yeah, 5.166. It says that if a mendicant is accomplished in ethics, immersion, and wisdom, they might enter into and emerge from the cessation of perception and feeling. And if they don't reach enlightenment in this very life, surpassing the company of gods that consume solid food, they're reborn in a certain host of mind-made gods, where they might enter into and emerge from the cessation of perception and feeling. So would that mean maybe that's suggesting that that's like anagami or something? That's like a kind
Yeah,
of a level of deities for anagami, maybe?
I would think so. If they are established in the uh, Sila and the confidence and the triple gem, and they've entered the stream. If they stumble there, like they haven't entered the stream and they stumble there during their meditation and die there, then that's maybe not necessarily anagami, but they if you've gone forth into monastic life, he's talking about mendicants.
Mm.
They've got to at least to be a faith follower or a Dhamma follower, so they would end up being anagamis.
Mm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, only because I thought, yeah, that kind of the being content and feeling like you've got no more improvement kind of goes against the other sutra. Otherwise, unless you're fully kind of liberated, it's like you've always got something more to improve.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. So I guess that's enough for now. I'm going to take us off of YouTube.